So on this quick video, I'd like to remind you how to use the Student T calculator on StatCrunch and go over the two examples on the previous video. So as far as how to use the T calculator, we're going to walk through three quick examples. Suppose n equals 16, the sample size is 16, and we want to find the probability that a t-value is bigger than 2.12. We're going to go to Stat, Calculators, T-Stat. The sample size is 16, so that will make for 15 degrees of freedom. We want to find the probability that t, now it says x, but we intend it to mean t, that t is greater than 2.12, and we're going to compute, and the answer is 0.2555. Our next question is, if the sample size is 25, what's the chance that t is less than 1.73? So the sample size is 25. That would make the degrees of freedom 24. We want to find the chance that t is less than, in this case, 1.73, and we're going to hit compute. There's our visual. It is a large probability. It's 0.9518-ish. And finally, we're going to think about doing an inverse lookup. We want to find a particular value, we'll call it b, so that the probability t is less than that value is 0.95. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up our calculator. Now we know the area. We want the area to be 0.95. If the sample size is 17, that will make for 16 degrees of freedom. And we find that the value in question, the t-value, is 1.7459-ish. So let's go to the examples in the previous video. In the previous video, we were wondering, do third and fourth graders watch more than 14 hours of TV per week? And we drew a sample size of 198 students. So the null hypothesis is they do watch 14 hours of TV per week versus the alternative that they watch more than 14 hours per week. Since the sample size was 198, we're looking at 197 degrees of freedom. We saw in the previous video that the calculated t statistics was 1.4. And using the t calculator, that turns out to have a probability of 0.08-ish. Since 0.08 is bigger than the critical value of alpha equal to 0.05, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. We do not reject the null hypothesis. So there's no evidence that third and fourth graders watch more than 24 hours of TV per week. The second example we looked at is, do students at a particular school sleep on average 8 hours per night? We looked at a sample size of 15. So do they sleep on average 8 hours per week, or don't they? A two-tailed alternative. We saw in the previous video that the calculated t statistic based on the sample data was negative 2.85. 15 for a sample size means 14 degrees of freedom. The calculated t was 2.85, negative 2.85. Now this is a two-tailed test. So we want the area both below negative 2.85 and above positive 2.85. Well, the calculator only allows us to find one of those two areas. So we calculate the area below negative 2.85, and that's 0.0062. So to find the area on either side, we're just going to double it. So the area both below and above positive and negative 2.85 is 0.012. Since 0.0124 is less than 0.05, we are going to reject the null hypothesis. And since t is negative, rejecting it means not only that they don't get 8 hours of sleep per night, but negative implies they get less than 8 hours of sleep per night.